Here's my disclaimer. This is not an attempt to become an optics expert or an optics reviewer channel that is dedicated to that. I didn't study these things. I don't have as much expertise as a lot of people do in these things. I'm a user. I'm a guy who actually shoots guns. I go out to the range. I compete. I do this stuff, and this is my hobby, and I want to tell you, as like a hobby grade kind of guy, a competitive guy who shoots a little bit of NRL 22 and shows up some other events too, I want to tell you what my experience is with the Zeiss S3 LRP. This is the 4-25 model. It's a mil configuration. I shoot all mil optics when I can. And I'm going to compare it against other optics that are not exactly the same. There's going to be some differences, so get over it. I'm not going to talk about every detail, okay? I'm not going to talk about the weight class that they're in. I might not give price points for like exact dollar figures. I'm just generally comparing stuff that I have and that companies have sent out to my channel because I think it's interesting. I like this Zeiss scope a lot. But just because it's the most expensive scope I have right now doesn't mean that it's the best in every possible way. And it doesn't mean it's the most practical optic that I have. I have some other really nice optics, and I'm going to just kind of advertise all of them. I'm going to compare them all a little bit against the Zeiss and just tell you about the features that I appreciate, what I like about one or the other, and then kind of tell you, is the Zeiss better or worse in certain features and attributes of each optic? And so this isn't conclusive. I'm not going to cover it all. I'm not going to do it with scientific controls. I'm just hanging out filming this, and I hope that it entertains you and maybe helps you make a more informed decision if you're looking at any one of these optics. Maybe some of them you haven't heard of before, and you can go research that. I'll try to drop some links below, but I appreciate it. Go ahead and like, share, subscribe, and here you go. All right, I'm going to change this up just a little bit for the sake of time. I'm going to start off with the eye relief. The Blackhound 3-24, this is the Emerge series, has pretty good eye relief. It is definitely a benefit of this optic. This one has a 56mm objective as well. Just a couple differences. It's 3-24. It is not a 4-25, but they're close. And they both go pretty close to that higher end power, 24, 25, and 3 on the low side, 4 on the low side. So I think they're still comparable. Glass-wise, we'll talk about that in a second. But let's go to, let's start with this. So from 25 power over to 4 power, like I said, it's incredibly smooth. It's just nearly perfect. And if I go on the Blackhound here, it does have a more aggressive texture than a lot of optics do. And from 3 power, using the Magnification assist here, it's smooth enough, but there's definitely more resistance. It's not like tight or inconsistent. There's no slip in there. It doesn't feel gritty. None of that. It's a nice feeling Magnification assist lever and ring. But it's a lot more force. It's going to move the rifle around a little bit. Whereas with this thing, I mean, you could use a finger to move this around and it's pretty smooth. Definitely has a bigger knob on there as well. But even if I didn't have the knob, it's pretty smooth. This is very, very smooth. It's just exerting more force. It takes more muscle to move that around, okay? Going to the illumination knob. Now, I didn't have illumination to compare on the last one, but the illumination knob on the Zeiss is clicky. It has off, in between, and it has 2 color settings. The Blackhound has off, in between, and it has 1 color setting. So there's one difference. And on 6 power, let's see, it's definitely not what I would call daylight bright, and I don't mind that. I rarely use that. Even if I go down on 3 power, yeah, it's pretty hard to tell that it's illuminated. So we're just not going to call that daylight bright, and that does happen to be a fresh battery in there as well. So that's one thing to notice. Texture is really good, clicky, doesn't feel spongy at all. I like that, but I would only use it at like dusk, early morning. The brightness on the Zeiss is pretty good. They do really well with their illumination. For whatever reason, they just like to have them really bright, and so no concerns with that at all. The turrets, okay, this is not going to have as much internal travel as this one. This one has a rev indicator, so if you're in the second revolution, this little knob just barely pops up so you can feel it. It's hard to see, but you can feel it a little bit. There's not a second rotation or revolution indicator on this one. No big deal to me. I'm going to say the clicks on the Blackhound, they're pretty good. Some people would like more distance between them, between each click, and maybe for it to be more audible. I know that that's a trend right now and people kind of like that. But with this aggressive texture on there, moving it, even in the wintertime with my gloves on, I can feel them. I think it's a pretty good texture. And when I do like a big sweep, if I'm gonna go right to 9, let's go right to 9 mils, there's lots of feedback. A decent amount of tension. They're just a little more stiff to actuate than the Zeiss. The Zeiss are more clicky. They're more audible. Okay, I'm gonna take my mic off and just give you an example of the two turrets here. So here's the Blackhound. And the zero stop on that as well is kind of, it's not mushy at all, it's just pretty silent. Here's the Zeiss. All right, so it's worth noting that the zero stop is just, it feels a little more robust for whatever reason. It's more solid sounding as far as a mechanical zero stop goes. I like that. The clicks, it feels slightly, I don't know if it's that much different of spacing or if it's just that it's more tactile. Turrets feel better in here. They do have more travel, but I think the tracking between the two of these is going to be exactly the same. For various reasons, I feel like it's going to be exactly the same for tracking trueness in there. These are just, yeah, the Blackhound's just a little quieter. Some people might call it slightly mushy. I don't think that's what it is. I don't think it's mushy, but the roll over from click to click isn't as crunchy or tactile. These are just cleaner clicks, but they're also a little bit closer together. Again, some people would like more distance between the clicks than both of these provide. Again, this is the S3 model, so it doesn't have the 10th mil indicator with that little bump, or that difference in the clicks. So uniform clicks all the way around, but good. I'm gonna give it to the Zeiss. I like those better, and it has more internal travel, but these are not bad at all, and it's on one of my favorite guns for a reason. They're pretty good. I think I get away with 19.5 mils of travel and elevation internally with this, so that's good. Let's talk about the reticle really quick. The reticle on the Blackhound, that helps. The reticle on the Blackhound, so you get 10 mils of in the reticle in the emerge here, and it has a crosshair that runs into each other, so it's kind of almost a little duplexy feeling. Just because they run into each other. I'm used to shooting a lot of center dot style reticles, but it is mils. It's more on the simple side, and it has a function, especially if I was going to do a little more hunting. I would actually prefer to hunt with this, the Blackhound, versus the Zeiss, as far as hunting goes, just because of the way that that reticle is built and how it looks when I put it on an animal, which I've done several times. Hard to lose, it's easy to pick up, and even at 3 power, it's pretty functional. The thing that the Zeiss has going for it with the reticle is there's a lot more holdover, it's got more information, it's more technical, and if I just turn the illumination on, then I favor this one, because the illumination is bright enough that I can almost use that thing, not like a red dot, but in the territory of a red dot, so it pops out even if I'm on 4 power. I can look at that illumination and it's nice. I can do green or red. And let's just open that cap up, that helps. Even green on a green background, I can pick it out a little bit. That's not too bad. Yep, so I'm going to give it to the Zeiss on that one. As far as price goes, again, there's a difference. The Zeiss is more expensive by a few $100s, but these are closer together in comparison. So far, some of the features, I'm favoring the Zeiss, but if I had a budget difference, I would still be really happy with this. If I couldn't afford to get the Zeiss, I'd still be really happy with this. Let's just go to image next. I think parallax, I suppose I should talk about parallax. The parallax dial on the Blackhound, a little stiff, just a little bit. Not creaky, doesn't have any slop in it. which is a good thing. Aggressive dial, so I can get a good purchase on it, even though that is just a little more muscle to turn that thing. No numbers on this one other than the beginning and end, and this goes down to 20, but the Zeiss again goes down to 15, and it's definitely smoother. There's no doubt about it. That is a smoother dial. No numbers, and it has more indicators on it that some people might care about that. If there's no numbers, they want indicators, and there's a type of indicator in here, and it's probably a better plan as far as indicators go. This just has like 4 sections, and so those 4 sections of block, you know, it's a widening line. Maybe that's more helpful for some people, but I'd prefer the Zeiss the way that they designed that. All right, let's go to image quality now. All right, going to low power, field of view is great. 3 power is really good for that. Going up to 25, I'm gonna fix that parallax a little bit. It's a good piece of glass. It's a very good piece of glass. I think that's true of all Blackhound optics. I think they do put some money into the quality of their glass and controlling that. Parallax is set. All right, as I look at the target right now, here at 200 yards on 24 power, there is no chromatic aberration. I don't see any. In the center of the glass, on the steel, that is. There's nothing there. It's pretty good with contrast. Color trueness is really good. Yeah, that's a nice image. It is one of my nicest pieces of glass, for sure. I think these two are very similar in glass, in quality there. Could even be made in the same factory, who knows? Okay, I'm going to back it off a little bit here, and I just want to look at edge to edge. And I like to put that reticle, when I'm looking at it, I like to put that reticle at the bottom of the glass and just see if those numbers get blurry or if anything happens there, because that is something you'll see on cheaper glasses. If the number 10, like you have 10 mils of holdover, it's at the bottom of the glass and you're going to try to use that, but it's real blurry. Sometimes it distorts it. It could even change what you think your data is supposed to be if it's really bad. Could distort the image in the reticle just too much. I'm not seeing anything though. It's still really clear. When I look at 2 mils and I look at the number 10, right at the extreme edge, it's a really nice piece of glass, guys. It definitely has that going for it. I do not see too much bending or color fringing or anything towards the edge. I'm pretty happy with that image. Like I said, one of the nicest pieces of glass I have. Brightness, color, contrast, field of view, eye relief. I think I've covered a lot of those things now. Okay, I'm going to say, as far as image goes on this guy, let me just run it to the extreme one more time. I've done this a lot of times, but I do it on camera at least. There's 19.5 mils. And let's go up here. No tunneling. I don't see any tunneling when I do that. Yeah, I think they did a really good job with this. Now, it may only have 19.5 mils, but it's just really trustworthy. The image is great, nice and clear. And maybe that's why it only has 19.5 mils, is it's limiting you from going to a range where the glass would not be as clear. Just optically, it would be less desirable. Contrast is really good. That's something that I've noticed as I've been shooting more in the last few years, is contrast just matters a lot. When you're shooting competitions and you're quickly trying to find a target, and if you have poor contrast, it's pretty frustrating to try to find that target. Things can blend in with each other, and targets can even blend in with each other sometimes, and I've just run into that with less, or poor quality glass in general. This is not a poor piece of glass. I'm going to say these are equal in glass quality and image, even though this is a 56 and this is a 50. So I'm not sure if that gives an advantage to the Zeiss, that it has a 50, yet it seems just as bright. Seems like field of view is really, really good. I'm not sure if there's an advantage there then. It is a lighter optic. I think it's slightly more compact as well. It probably is. Yeah, It's more compact, but not by much. But that's awesome. So this is a relatively affordable optic, and it has a really good image. It's, again, a couple $100, few $100 less than the Zeiss. Let's move on to the next optic.